So tonight, I'd like to invite our guest speaker, Marie G. Pilon. I don't want to give the story. I would like for her to be able to share her story. So, planche est à toi. The floor is yours.
Hey, thank you very much. Merci beaucoup de nous accueillir. Pendant que je prépare le partage d'écran, je vais en profiter pour saluer mes collègues et mon mari, parce que my colleagues are here, my husband is here. So, hello, GS, hello, Cynthia. Hi, darling. Hi, ma'am. My mother-in-law is here as well, so thank you for being here. And I believe you can all see my slide now. Est-ce que c'est correct pour
Yes, on le voit à plein écran, oui.
Okay, parfait. Donc, I'm going to start by apologizing. It's going to be a Franglish presentation, not as fully bilingual as you guys. Mine was mostly English. I was kind of rushing to throw some French in when I realized
Nous franglais, nous parlons le franglais.
Ouais, donc ça va être une présentation en franglais avec des diapos à moitié françaises, à moitié anglaises. Donc, je m'excuse d'avance. Donc, mon nom, c'est Marie-Gervaise Pilon. Blew it for my husband. So that's my name, Marie G. Pilon. And I'm here on behalf of Québec Réunifié. We are a nonprofit organization promoting reasonable timelines for family reunification in Québec. Donc, notre objectif, c'est vraiment de faire la promotion d'un temps de réunification qui est raisonnable pour les familles québécoises. Donc, j'ai préparé un petit agenda. Je vais d'abord faire un rappel de ce que c'est que le parrainage familial ou le regroupement familial. Et ensuite, une clarification sur la crise, pourquoi il y a cette crise-là et qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire pour régler cette crise-là. So essentially, I'm going to present two big items. The first one is a very quick reminder of what family reunification is and what it's about. And then we'll talk about exactly why it's in crisis in Quebec right now. So the first reminder is that because there's been, and I think it's relevant to today's big news with François Legault's claim to getting all full powers of immigration, it's really important to have that reminder. So family reunification is of the federal competency. Quebec has the ability to approve sponsors, but people who come here under family reunification are coming here under the federal program. Donc, très important de se rappeler qu'à la base, la sélection des immigrants dans le regroupement familial, c'est fait par le gouvernement fédéral. Le Québec a la possibilité de participer à l'approbation des parrains essentiellement pour la capacité financière, mais pas pour la sélection elle-même des immigrants qui viennent dans le regroupement familial. So that's part of why there's this debate going on right now. So that's the accord, the Canada-Quebec Accord that's on the screen. That delineates basically the shared responsibilities. Donc, ça, c'est un extrait de l'accord Canada-Québec, dont j'ai découvert le titre complet aujourd'hui, d'ailleurs. Hein, c'est relatif à l'immigration et à l'admission temporaire des aubains, un mot que je ne connaissais pas. So I hope you're enjoying the new vocabulary. Ça, c'est l'interprétation de l'Acadie. L'Acadie, c'est l'Association du Québec des avocats en droit de l'immigration. So they are supporting my interpretation that functionally the federal government gets to select and admit immigrations for family reunification, and that there should not be quotas. So according to the Canada-Quebec Accords, there should not be a limit. There's a target to be hit, but there's not supposed to be any kind of cap as there is currently in Quebec. Donc ça, c'est l'interprétation de l'Acadie. Donc, on ne devrait pas avoir les quotas qu'on a au Québec parce que c'est supposé être des cibles et non des seuils, ce qui n'est pas la même chose. Donc, ça, c'était mon petit rappel rapide. This is just a very quick overview of what family reunification looks like. If it's giving you a headache, welcome to the life of the sponsor. This is what sponsoring your husband or your wife or your child or your parents or your grandparents might look like. So very quickly, you send your application. It's either deemed complete or not. If it's deemed complete, it moves on as passed. And then there are various steps. So there's biometrics, medical, Then the sponsors approved, at which point, if you're in Quebec, it goes to the CSQ point, which is the point of contention currently. And then it eventually goes into the visa office or into the Ottawa office, depending on whether the person's applying from inside or outside Canada. There may or may not be an interview. This whole process is supposed on paper to take 12 months. In Quebec right now, it takes 30. 3 months ago, it took 42. Donc, ça, c'est je ne veux pas faire le détail parce que c'est vraiment long, mais si on passe à travers rapidement les étapes, on fait une demande, elle est considérée complète, le parrain est approuvé. Il y a des étapes qui ne sont pas toujours au même moment, mais il va y avoir une biométrie médicale, vérification de sécurité. Et si la personne est au Québec, ils vont devoir demander le CSQ, qui est le point de contention présentement. Donc, je vais en parler un peu plus tard, là, plus en détail pour bien comprendre c'est quoi la question du CSQ pour le gouvernement du Québec en ce moment. Mais ça, c'est grosso modo le processus. Il est censé prendre 12 mois pour le Canada et au Québec en ce moment, c'est 30 mois. Et il y a 3 mois, c'était 42 mois. Donc, voilà. So who can sponsor? Well, only really two types of individual can sponsor. Either Canadian citizens or PRs. And as you can see, the vast majority of the people who are sponsoring are Canadian citizens, according to our graph here. So that's the result of our internal investigations. So about 3 sponsors out of 4 are Canadian citizens. Donc, à peu près 3 parrains sur 4 sont des citoyens canadiens. La seule autre catégorie de personnes qui peut parrainer, ce sont des résidents permanents qui sont de toute façon des futurs citoyens. They're all going to wind up being citizens anyway. It's just a matter of time. Donc, voilà. Applications can be internal or external. They come with different challenges. Donc, une personne qui est à l'interne, on peut voir sur le diapo, le couple qui est avec le fond blanc. They're going to have issues to do with access to work or access to health services. In this case, we're looking at a couple. This was based from November. He has been for 4 months at the time, it had been for 4 months in Quebec without access to health or ability to work. Donc ça, c'est le problème pour les parrainés internes. C'est le temps d'attente pour pouvoir travailler et avoir accès aux services de santé. Les parrainés qui sont externes, donc eux, c'est plus un enjeu de réunification, donc d'accès. So if you're an external applicant, the issue is mostly to do with access to your spouse. In this case here, we're looking at a young couple. They've been together for 2 years, married 1 year. They've been in sponsorship for 11 months, and they've been physically apart for a whole year. So it's an example of what people are going through right now. And of course, this will continue on as long as nothing happens. So currently, there are over 43,400 applications in the system. Ça, c'est les nouveaux chiffres qui sont sortis dans la presse aujourd'hui. On parle de 43 400 demandes dans le système. On parlait avant de 38 400. Donc, ça a augmenté un peu, c'est normal. Les gens continuent de rencontrer. Donc, c'est normal que ça continue d'augmenter. So this is the new number that's been issued in the press this morning. The reality of this is when we look at what Quebec is admitting is in reality, a lot of these people are already present. So what you're seeing here in my slide is the result of an access to information request that we made. And if you look at it, you'll notice that sur place, donc presently in the country, for the year of 2023, there were already 10,000 people out of 17,000 people who were already in Quebec. Donc, quand le gouvernement du Québec parle d'admettre beaucoup de gens, en réalité, il y a déjà beaucoup de gens qui sont présents sur le territoire. Donc, c'est pas nécessairement exact de dire qu'on va faire rentrer 17 000 personnes. En réalité, on ne fait pas rentrer 17 000 personnes, on fait rentrer 7 000 personnes pour l'année 2023, par exemple. So that's the proportion that we have for 2023. This is how many CSQs were given in 2023 by the government of Quebec. As you notice, that's a very high number, and it's not the number of people they're letting in, because currently they're letting in 10,000. So that's 7,000 people that are stopped at the federal level and not allowed to come in. So that's the reality of the numbers. So these are actually the people, les 7000 personnes qui sont ici à l'étranger, c'est vraiment les personnes qui vont venir dans le pays. And there's a breakdown. If you can see, this is all from the government. So these are not my numbers. They're actually government numbers. And out of that, 5,500 people are spouses, 1,000 are children, and there are 572 others, which include parents and grandparents. We don't exactly know what the breakdown is because the government has kind of folded them in together. Donc, ça, c'est pour avoir une idée aussi là, des gens qui sont en attente de venir ici. So we are talking currently about 1,000 children who are not allowed to see a parent in Quebec. Donc, ça, c'est la réalité. On parle de 1,000 enfants qui n'ont pas accès à leurs parents au Québec en ce moment. The other thing is, I'd like to debunk what François Legault had to say about having a lot of, uncles and aunts and cousins. That's not actually accurate. We don't exactly know what the proportion is, but most of these people will be parents or grandparents. And the people who are not parents, grandparents, or spouses or children tend to be, a part of an exceptional measure. Donc, voilà. Donc, ça, c'est pour montrer là, la réelle proportion. The other aspect of numbers, I'm sorry, I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers around, but this is just to show that the number of people we're accepting right now are very much below the number of people that other provinces are accepting in terms of demographic weight. Et si on regarde le poids démographique du Québec, en ce moment, on reçoit à peu près la moitié de ce qu'on devrait recevoir pour notre poids démographique, pour maintenir le poids démographique du Québec. So if we wanted to have the same demographic weight and to maintain it, we'd have to roughly accept the number of people that are receiving CSQs that the CAC for some reason isn't accepting. So that's where we are. Of course, you wonder, where will these people live? It's a very simple answer. They will live in their sponsors' homes. I guarantee you I am not going to have my husband live anywhere else but in the home we bought together. I promise you, darling, I'm not moving you anywhere. Donc, ça, c'est la grande question. Où est-ce que vont vivre ces gens? Mais ils vont vivre chez leurs parents. Hein? On ne fait pas rentrer quelqu'un pour le mettre ailleurs. Donc, et d'ailleurs, on peut voir ici là, déjà à peu près un tiers, un peu moins d'un tiers des gens sont déjà dans le logement, right? So about a third of these people are already in the home. So according to our internal numbers. The demographic spread is roughly the same as the rest of Quebec. So the people who come will come a little bit all over. Of course, Montreal and Laval and Quebec remain quite attractive, but there will be people who will go to other regions. Donc, la répartition démographique suit en fait le poids démographique, la répartition démographique normale du Québec. Donc, on peut voir que oui, Montréal, Québec, Laval reste quand même très intéressant pour les gens, mais il y a aussi des gens qui vont dans d'autres régions. Il y a des gens qui vont au Saguenay, il y a des gens qui vont en Outaouais, en Andière, dans les Laurentides. Donc, c'est pas juste les grandes régions métropolitaines. Donc, tout ça pour dire que par entrée, c'est 20 000 personnes à peu près qui sont supposément là, dans le backlog, là, parce que les autres ne sont pas encore considérés en retard. C'est juste faire rentrer de la main-d'œuvre qui ne coûte pas cher et qui est déjà formée, parce que la majorité d'entre eux sont des époux. So essentially, we conducted a survey, and this is roughly where people stand in terms of where the spouses stand professionally. So if you look at them, they're mostly professionals. They're in trades. They're public sector employees. And there are, roughly a quarter who are either unqualified or unknown or students or retired, but 3/4, so three sponsored people out of 4 are actually going to be, basically ready to work when they arrive. So not a really big issue there. So, donc ça c'est au niveau de la représentation des conjoints surtout. Donc on voit bien que c'est des gens qui sont très qualifiés. And of course, it's really important to make sure that families do get reunited because it is a humanitarian issue. I've purposely, c'est une question humanitaire. Moi, j'ai fait exprès de choisir. J'ai vu qu'il y avait dans la salle, entre autres, je ne sais pas si elle est encore là, mais Madame Alexandre était là tout à l'heure. Madame Alexandre, et elle attend en Haïti pour pouvoir voir son enfant. Ça fait très longtemps qu'elle n'a pas vu son enfant, plus que 2 ans. Et elle n'est pas sûre pour sa sécurité. So there are people who are currently waiting to be with their child and who are currently unsafe, like the lady Madame Alexandre, who was featured in the first slide. There are, of course, LGBTQ couples who are currently living with a great deal of stress. My friend Jean-Sébastien went to be with his partner in the Philippines. You might have read their story in Cult Montreal. And they are one of the lucky LGBTQ couples. There are others who have to remain in the shadows because of security concerns. And of course, there are families who are basically waiting abroad, like the third family on my slide. And that's the end of my presentation. Donc voilà, j'ai fini de vous parler des enjeux humanitaires. Et je m'excuse, j'avais beaucoup de choses à dire en peu de temps. I'm sorry. I tried to be really
Non, non, c'était vraiment bien. Très belle présentation. Merci beaucoup. Tu n'as pas pris trop de temps. Tu as pris exactement le temps que tu avais besoin de prendre. Donc, là-dessus, je vais permettre tout le monde de se démuter. Everybody can now unmute themselves. Il y a Mark Spires qui a une question. Mark Spires has a question. Et maintenant, nous sommes dans la période de foire aux questions. We're in the Q&A time period. So there's no strict order to it. Just raise your hand using the reaction so that I can dedicate your time. And it could be questions on immigration, like it could be questions on any topic that's related to the think tank. Okay? J'ai oublié qu'est-ce que j'ai dit, mais Mark, go ahead. You're on mute. You're still on mute. Yep. You're still on mute.
Hold the space bar if you want to talk. You're still muted.
Okay, here. Ask to unmute. There you go. I asked you to unmute.
Okay, here I am.
Yes, you are. There you are.
Alrighty. So in terms of family reunification, let me get this straight because I'm not so up to date on the issue. Is it the people that have been accepted as citizens who are in the province of Quebec who are asking for their families to be reunited with their families, or is it people that are landed immigrants, or what's going on exactly? What is their status?
May I can answer that very quickly. You can only sponsor a family member if you're in one of two situations. You're either the holder of a Canadian passport or you're a permanent resident and you have a PR card. Those are the two situations in which you can sponsor your wife, your child, your parent, grandparent. Well, you also have to win the lottery because that's a whole nother scenario. And
so if you're a permanent resident, you are not yet a citizen. Is that correct? Or
that is correct. However, we know that people who are permanent residents are functionally citizens. They're basically going to be citizens, right? 3 years down the road, they're going to apply for citizenship. So these are people who will be citizens very shortly.
And how long do you have to minimum stay to change your status from a permanent resident to a citizen?
It depends on the program. It can be extraordinarily long. Some people get it automatically. My mother got it automatically in the 70s when she came here from France. That is no longer the case. I can guarantee you that. That is no longer true. My mother came here as PR as a student. That is no longer possible. Nowadays, for example, people who come here through a student pathway, they'll have to do 3 years of studies, and then they'll have to maintain employment for a couple of years, and then they can apply through the student experience program, or they'd have to be selected as a qualified worker or an economic migrant, come in, work several years, and they have to at least be here 3 years before they can apply for citizenship. Somebody who comes in on family reunification will also have to first get PR and then also live here for 3 years continuous before they can apply for citizenship. And there's no it's not automatic. So between the moment where you apply and the moment when you get it, there can also be a long period of time, and that's Canada-wide. So there are people who, for example, have been permanent residents for 5 years, and they've applied for citizenship, and they only get it 2 or 3 years later. That happened to one of my friends in Ontario during the pandemic.
So you're asking for a person who is a permanent resident who is in the process of becoming a citizen to be able to have family reunification while they're a permanent resident?
Well, as I've said, 3/4 of sponsors are citizens. I'm a sponsor, I'm a citizen. I
So
was born here.
you can sponsor someone who's a permanent resident.
I'm currently sponsoring my husband, who's right here in this chat, who is a British citizen. My husband is not Canadian, needs to come live with me, and consequently, he needs to get authorization to live here. I'm
So what I'm
Canadian,
trying to say
he's
to a
British.
permanent a citizen, a
Somebody's
person who's
gotta get
already a
status
citizen,
somewhere.
a person who is already a citizen can sponsor someone else for family reunification.
Only if they have permanent residency, which is, as I've said, the holy grail of immigration.
Okay, and do you see this changing? I'll end my question here. Do you see this changing tomorrow with the meeting between the Prime Minister and the Premier?
That is a fantastic question, and I wish I had a crystal ball. Truth of the matter is, what the only hope that we can have is that the meeting between the Premier and the Prime Minister will give us some matter of status quo, because at the moment, people are sponsoring their spouse or their child, or, you know, in some cases, a parent or grandparent. And as I've presented, these are minority cases, right? We're talking about like 500 people for 1 year in the case of like elderly relatives. So they're very, very, they're minor there, and they're, you know, people who are drawn into lottery. It's a whole thing. The vast majority are spouses. So if you, for example, Mark, go to another country and you meet a fantastic Romanian lady and you want to bring back your wife, you would have to go through this process.
I've done that, and it was in Romania. It was the Middle East, and that happened a long time ago, and that's a completely different story. So,
But that's the same process. That's the process here, right?
Okay.
So if you're Canadian and you marry a foreigner, that's the process you have to go through. If you are Canadian, but your child is not, because you got citizenship after your child was born, for example, then you have to go through this process to bring your child here. These are kind of the scenarios where we are.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
So I have a couple of questions. I'll start with the one that I actually do remember. If you were to become premier tomorrow, what would be the ideal policy for immigration regarding family reunifications?
Me?
Yes.
It's a basic right. It's a fundamental right. Anybody should have the right to choose who they wed and who they make their life with. And they should not have to go into exile to be able to live their life with that person. So spouses, children, that's basic. I mean, that's a nuclear family. There's no, I don't even understand that we would have to debate this. For me, that's basic. It's not capped anywhere else in Canada. Why is it capped here? It should not be. Should there be a process to make sure that relationships are genuine, to make sure that the person isn't, you know, I don't know, a registered sex offender or some other stuff like that? Of course. I mean, we're reasonable people here. But should people have to go into exile to be with their partner? Definitely not.
The follow-up question to that was, what is the percentage of families that you know of that come from a francophone country as opposed to an anglophone country?
Oh, I can actually answer that. We have data. So roughly 2/3 of people who are being sponsored are considered francophone or have chosen French on their immigration application. This does not mean that the other third are Anglophones. They're classified as Anglophones, but that's not necessarily true. They're just people who have chosen English as a more comfortable language. They might actually even be bilingual or have an advanced level of French. You would not know, because that's how they're accounted for by IRCC.
Okay. And is there is there a difference in the wait time between a francophone and Anglophone speaker?
The ways of IRCC are like the ways of God. They're impenetrable. So we haven't noticed any pattern as regards language specifically. We've noticed patterns as regards visa offices. So people who are, for example, applying through the Mexico office, who would likely be from someplace in Latin America, tend to wait longer because of some functional issues in that visa office. But we haven't seen, like, for example, we've seen Africans have extraordinarily long wait times, and they are, some of them really speak French and are counted as francophones. So
and that's actually very interesting that you mentioned that, and I'll say the reason why is because for the universities, okay, with what's going on with the tuition hike right now, countries like Belgium and another one do not have to are excluded from the pay increase for the tuition hike.
France.
And France, thank you. So France and Belgium. And yesterday, while I was at the manifestation, the protest, they were chanting something where they said something at the end. Education should be free and something, and shouldn't only be a privilege for the white. And I thought about it, and I asked them, like, why would you include color or a race into this? And they said because the rule works for France and for France and for Belgium, but any other French colonized country, they're not included. So, with that being said, people that so then let's break down the question even further. The people that are from France and Belgium, do they have a shorter time period than, like you just said, than the African countries that are francophone?
I mean, I can't give you. I mean, any answer I would give you would be anecdotal, if I'm really honest with you.
Okay.
We have a case of an internal Belgian applicant who got PR in 20 months, I believe.
Okay.
We used to have a member of the executive committee who was an internal applicant from France, and I believe that application was also 22 months.
Okay.
So I can't say really that that language plays a role. If I did, I would really need to be able to back it up, because anecdotal, and from an anecdote perspective, there's no correlation there's no correlation that would imply any kind of causation.
Okay, no, it's good. It's good to know. I mean, we speak to so many people, and there's so many conversations that are going on that connecting the dots between one thing or another. It's how I connected the dot between the education and immigration and stuff like that.
Well,
You can see where the government is thinking.
Well, there's definitely the issue of language is definitely at the forefront of the government's mind, or at least of the premier's mind. I mean, he actually said it in an often quoted clip that wound up on X. He actually said, like, we are not going to allow family reunification to explode because there are issues with Francization, was what he said. But that is factually incorrect, as I have demonstrated, because factually, basically 2/3 to 3/4, depending on how you look at the language requirement of the sponsored people, already do speak French, and a whole bunch of them are already here anyway. So
okay, very, very interesting. Does anybody else have any questions? No?
I'm seeing in the chat here that Jean-Sébastien is offering to get more details on the specifics of the agreements if needed for the France and Belgium.
Perfect. Oh, that was my other question. What is the retention? What is Quebec's retention of immigrants once they have landed here? Because I've heard it was horrible. I heard that it was like 11%. Like once they come to Quebec, 11% stay.
I believe that's for another category.
Mhm.
In family reunification, people tend to stay because they come to be with their spouse, and unless the spouse goes. Now there is there's an unknown number of families that are considering leaving Quebec because of these issues. There are people. I mean, we have. I mean, am I okay to point you out, friend? Yeah. There's somebody here in the chat right now who has left Quebec to be with their partner because the wait time was too long. I mean, this is real. This is real. This is a very real deal. So there is that, but I don't have any data on family reunification couples remaining in Quebec. But you know, I mean, if to, I mean, there would have to be a massive upheaval for me to leave. I have a job here. I have, you know, my property, my mother. And I mean, I'm kind of your sample sponsor, so people don't really tend to go.
Lorraine says in the chat, so is Legault desirable outcome from his meeting tomorrow with Trudeau that he will maintain the cap on immigration in all categories?
I'm not sure I understand the question. From Legault's perspective?
I believe so.
Who knows?
Okay.
I
Yeah.
would
I
say
don't.
from
Go
what
ahead,
we've
GS.
learned through the media, through the media, that is that Legault is mainly concerned about the French speaking language, as he wanted to have a test or requirements for married couples to come under family reunification as well. So that's why he slipped out when speaking to a journalist that he wanted to have those requirements for reunification, basically, because there's no way to test the French level of those people. And that's why there would be quotas.
Mm.
Yes, as I've demonstrated, it would be illegal for Quebec to have a language requirement for family reunification because Canada has the selection power. So that's definitely why he's unhappy with the category. He does not. So the current cap that we are the caps are currently Quebec imposed, but some of them are illegal, like the one on family reunification. It should not even exist. Legault has said he wants to ask for all powers in immigration. That's what he said in the media. But in order to obtain that, the legal pathway to that, as has been highlighted time and time over by Maxime Lapointe, who is, you know, an immigration expert, a law immigration expert, time and time again, he has been repeating this over and over. The pathway is to ask to reopen the Canada-Quebec Accords through Article 33. That this has been put forward by political parties at the National Assembly. They've asked for it to be done. It was proposed by Québec Solidaire, and the minister Fréchette refused to do it, and François Legault has been ignoring it. So I don't know why he's doing it through the media or through these declarations, because there is a legal pathway and he's actively refusing to use it. I don't know if that answers your question, Lauren.
Mainly because there's a lot of money being given by the federal government to provincial government through Francization programs, and they don't have any. Ils n'ont pas de reddition de compte à rendre. Ils n'ont pas
There's no accountability.
No accountability, exactly. So that's might be one of the reasons why they don't want to open it.
Mm. Très intéressant.
Well, I mean, there's the other aspect is that if you reopen the accord, it's a two-way street, right? It's a negotiation.
Yeah.
So Canada will probably want some things too. And, you know, given the current situation and the current conflict, we don't know what Canada will want. And I'm pretty sure they don't want to know what Canada will want. So there's that too.
That's very interesting. Yeah, well, he's definitely playing a game of chess because everything is tied in together, right? The fact that social housing are not being built and stuff like that is his reason of saying, well, where are we going to put the immigrants when they come here? So we like that's to me that's obvious that that's why they don't want to build more houses and why they're slowing it down. They're slow on the financing and stuff like that. So they're causing a lot of delays and restrictions to negotiate with Trudeau. And it's interesting. Anyways, on that's on a political standpoint.
Well, I mean,
So
at this point, I think it would be safe to say family reunification has become a wedge issue for um, the power struggle between the two levels of government. I don't have a position in either way. I just want families to be together. This is literally the only thing I'm asking for. I just want wives and husbands, or husbands and wives, depending on how your boat sails, to be together. I want children to be with parents. That's it. That's all we ask. That is literally our only platform. We are a very single-minded collective and a very single-minded organization. That is all we want. Partners to be together and families to be together. We don't exactly care how it happens. We just want it to happen.
you know what would be very interesting? I just thought of this. Just before I was talking about Je suis Québécois.
Mhm.
So maybe we can alternate that little version just for you, and you could say Je veux devenir Québécois. Et voici pourquoi. And then we could use that pour promouvoir au reste du Québec parce que le plus grand problème que nous avons, c'est que les médias francophones présentement ne présentent pas l'autre côté de la médaille. Ils sont obligés de démontrer un seul côté de l'histoire. On va pas rentrer dans la politique là-dessus, mais c'est ça l'ingrédient secret pour augmenter notre visibilité et nos chagrins. Oh, bye Donna. So by fundraising and doing advertisement on the French media, that's how we could grow our visibility into the French. We did a commercial in 2021. It was a girl in an elevator that could speak multiple languages, and it brought down the ire of Impératif Français, and it's a shame we didn't capitalize on that. We wanted to, but anyways, long story short, that's the secret formula. And if we can talk about something like that, I think we can make a lot of headways for your fundraising campaign.
Maybe we can make a note of that and bring that up in our next board meeting. I've got a reminder here. I also need to mention that while all of this is going on with family reunification for Canadians and Canadian PRs, the CAC is recruiting actively abroad foreign workers who bring their families. Very actively.
In under 6 months.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the price of the CSQ. We just found out that we are paying $320 for CSQs fees for family reunification, and under economy class it's $870. So if it's only a money issue, why don't they just tell us and ask us to pay more? It would be resolved like quickly.
It would be bad press.
It would be very bad press. But that is also worth mentioning. So when I believe it was Mark who was asking about, who can bring families. Currently, economic workers have more family reunification rights than Quebecers. Which is something my M&A was quick to point out to me when I wrote to them to complain 6 months ago.
Ooh, By the ways, for everybody that's here, Geneviève has a very interesting campaign. Can you please share the link to your Facebook where they could they could do a one-click to email your the M&As?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, everyone, this is super cool. So, Marie is going to share a link. All you have to do is if you have an Android phone, you click on one link. If you have an iPhone, you click on the other link, and it'll populate the the subject line and the to field with all the M&As and stuff like that. And the body of the email is already written for you. So all you have to do is scroll down to the bottom, change just put your postal code, your name, and whatever the extra feature was, and click send. And the email's already done for you. So all you really have to do is click on that link, scroll to the bottom, change the bottom information, and it automatically sends the information for you. So please share that with us, Marie.
Yeah, so what I've done, because the Quebec Réunifié Facebook group is private, but I did post all this stuff publicly on my personal page. So I'm going to
Sure.
use those links which are public. So here's the one for the provincial government. There are two different links. So I've placed that in here. And of course, we're doing all of this stuff in French because the CAC kind of don't respond super extra well to other languages.
We haven't noticed.
So
And also sending mail in French shows them we are more francophones than they think we are.
So yeah, so I'm going to share the two links. So I may have interpreted the captions. And then here's this one is provincial. There you go. I've put those in the meeting chat.
In the chat. All right, perfect.
Yes.
If anybody has any technical issues or stuff like that, you could definitely reach out to me and I'll help you with that. But it's honestly such a simple process. Just click the link, scroll down to the bottom, and change the name, and that's it. It's done.
And
it feels illegal.
I know. I felt so rotten when I did it, but I'm like, fuck, it's so easy.
and if you send the one to the provincial government, we are CCing the whole National Assembly. So brace yourself for the extraordinary number of
the auto replies. Yeah.
auto replies. But I like to tell the members, you're getting a preview of what they feel when they get all of our emails. So thank you so much for allowing us to share that. We would love to have more support there.
I just like I would just like to mention that the only one who responded so far to me personally was Gabriel Nadeau-Dubois. He has taken the time to respond to me. I'm not sure for everyone, but at least mine, he has responded.
It's very interesting.
Yes.
I had Quebec Solidaire responded. They responded.
They're the only ones who've responded. I got something from the Conservatives on the federal level saying something like, if you're from a lobby, we're going to ignore you.
I've seen that message, that kind of auto response message a couple times already from a few deputies.
But it's about the numbers, right? It's about, and I did receive some feedback from our allies at the National Assembly saying, you should keep doing this. It is having an impact.
Je faisais quoi?
On a
eu... ma moustache.
Salut Aya, ça va? So I highly recommend it for your own campaigns as well. It is effective.
Yep. No, I'm definitely going to use that one for our campaigns. It's super cool. So Lorraine says that she sent many emails to MPs and MNAs and never gotten a response other than a notice that they received my email, but can't answer right now. but no follow-up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna try this new technique because it's honestly like super cool, and we'll see if we could get people on board. I really like it. It's super cool.
If I can share my experience with advocacy, I used to be with Faces of Advocacy, who is a Canadian group, and we were 17,000 members strong during the pandemic, advocating for extended family to get to visit. And we did it through this. This is how you did. This is how we made it happen. It was just this regular mass spamming and very, very good meetings with well-placed people. But the mass spamming is very helpful. Oh, thank you very much, Shelley. Love the feedback.
Oh, yes. Shelly is awesome.
Thank you.